Alexis Nunes back with my favorite Polish American brother from another mother, Janusz Michallik. We were just having a great talk about Polish food, but let's talk about what went on just south of London in Brighton at the Amex. Brighton up against Arsenal. A lot of eyes on Arsenal again as we get to the business end of this Premier League season and seeing if we really should still be calling them title contenders, especially with the way Liverpool are going now. At the end of the day, that game finished 1-1. Janusz, once again, we're talking about what coulda, shoulda, would have been for Mikel Arteta's men. But before we talk about specific incidents in that 1-1 draw with Brighton, just your thoughts overall on the game. I'm sure Arsenal will be feeling like this was 2 points dropped.
Yeah, I think Arsenal were feeling it in their bodies today. You could tell. I mean, and again, it's one of those games. It's not that Arsenal were bad, right? It's the pressure of the fact that Liverpool is dictating such tempo that the margins are so small, and you feel that you have to put down the pressure. You have to match Liverpool when they win, and you have to put pressure on them when you play ahead of them, right? Because all the talk was the psychology and optics of the fact if Arsenal saw this game through at 1-0, right? It's 3 points. Yeah, 2 games in hand, but you still have to win them. They're not easy. It's Everton rescheduled, so it's a different time. And maybe the last game, Everton plays in that stadium against Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. And 3 points does make a difference, just on paper when players look at it. And all of a sudden it's 5, and if Liverpool wins, it's back to 8. And you have to say that these margins are so small. So in a way, you feel for Arsenal, but the bottom line is that that's the position they're in. It's the 11 unbeaten, 5 draws right now, and these draws are costly. I often say that sometimes it's better to win a couple and lose one because the math doesn't lie, right? You get the more points for that. So look, it's never easy in the Premier League, and I have to mention that. I know it's such a cliche. Brighton, the kings of draws as of late. But, in that second half, you could see the difference. Look, the way I look at this game, I thought it was a very professional performance from Arsenal in the first half. It wasn't special, but it was physical. Maybe one chance, if you remember, by Adingra that he probably should have scored. But Arsenal always needed that second goal, always felt that way. And the difference in the second half was, starting in halftime, that the substitutes for Brighton made a much, much bigger difference, right? If you look at Minte, if you look at Ruder, who came in at halftime, and then later Mitoma, made a much bigger difference than Martinelli and Odegaard.
Which is not often that we do say that. I was just going to ask that because we know that Mikel Arteta has talked, especially in the press conference earlier this week, about how he does need to tinker. Arsenal do have a hot run of games coming up. There's a lot of football being played as well, but no Odegaard, he started on the bench. No Martinelli as well, he started on the bench. We know that they're still without Bukayo Saka. It was a huge opportunity for Ethan Nwaneri, and he did what he should have done. Unfortunately, he had to be brought off because he picked up a booking. Thomas Partey starting at right back. I guess it was a needs must for Mikel Arteta, who's trying to manage things. But do you think he should have just played his strongest 11?
Well, I mean, from what we're hearing, obviously there's sickness and illness running through the team. And that was obviously Kai Havertz, another one who, through illness wasn't even available. From what we're hearing, again, we're doing this right after the game. I don't know the explanation, but ahead of the game, there was a mention of Odegaard and who am I missing? And Martinelli being not 100%, so you can understand that. Games come, fast at you, right? Newcastle midweek at home in the League Cup as well. So, I mean, as a manager, you have to do that. You could see how much Jurriën Timber was missed today, right? And for a number of reasons, because yes, the midfield missed Thomas Partey, but that right back position with Jurriën Timber, the way he goes forward would have helped Nwaneri even more, right? I mean, that substitution, I don't know if it was just a yellow card, because I think for somebody that scores such a wonderful goal, you maybe give him another 5 or 10 minutes. He didn't do much after scoring the goal, but it makes you wonder, maybe there was a little bit of a knock as well, because that really wasn't the substitution that I was expecting, to be quite honest. If anything, I would have probably put Odegaard at halftime, ill or not, and again, that remains to be seen. But I would have put him because that midfield, although it was good and physical, was certainly lacking. Merino may be the best out of him in terms of that creativity. Bottom line, that second goal was needed. Remember the header from Merino that he got sort of injured on. He scores that, 30 seconds later, a minute later, and Brighton equalizes. Fine margins.
Yeah, fine margins indeed. Mikel Arteta loves to talk about those fine margins. But let's talk about, I suppose, a highlight of Arsenal, and that is just Ethan Nwaneri, because really and truly, like I said, this would have been a huge opportunity for him to kind of show that he's ready to play with the big boys. He's only just legal enough to drive, but here he is scoring yet again, and especially in the absence of a Saka and some of the other, usual goal-scoring kingpins, as you mentioned, Havertz. Is he really, I suppose, helping his stock, and how soon could he be probably one of the main men for the Gunners?
Absolutely. Look, I mean, Saka, was young when he came in as well, right? I mean, he's worked himself in. If you look at the two, I don't want to say they're the same, but they serve the same function, right? And do a lot of the same things. Ability one-on-one, coming on the left foot. This was his second goal. It was a wonderful goal. And not just that, I mean, the way it was built up. Declan Rice, I mean, incredible how he squeezed that ball in between two Brighton players, right? Merino that sends him through, and he's got that ability to come in and finish it. So look, how long have we been talking about, well, what if Saka gets injured? They really need to add on that side. And maybe they still do. If you look at Nwaneri, he's only 17 years old, so you never know how he's going to develop. But I think that they have a player that's ready. They're going to be hoping that he's going to be given these sort of performances on regular basis when he gets those chances. And maybe that's not a position that they need to spend a lot of money just because they worry what happens when Bukayo Saka is not available. So that's definitely a plus.
Another instance, though, that we saw as well, talking about that equalizer, which came from a penalty for Brighton, an unusual penalty from what seemed to be, I guess we could label it a Saliba challenge, but it was just kind of heads knocking. Again, not a penalty given that we see often, Janusz, but your thoughts on it, and if it was the right call, of course.
Yeah, it's a penalty. It's definitely, it was late, and it's a foul, and it's high, right? I mean, if it was a foot low, I mean, it's still a penalty. It's a contact. You missed that tackle. I just wonder, how Anthony Taylor saw that. I've watched this in real time. I mean, it's impossible to tell if there's actually contact. I know he was close. Maybe he saw a little bit better, but he hesitated just a little bit. Maybe he got a shout. Of course, if he missed it, maybe VAR would have called him to have a look again. But yeah, to me, it's a penalty. I wouldn't question that.
And then just your thoughts as well on Brighton, because we know Brighton love to spoil parties all around in terms of the usual big six who are now scattered around this Premier League table. This point now brings them just in the top 10. Do you see them getting back some of the form that we have come to know and love from a Brighton?
I think it's possible. I think just the competition. It's so much bigger right now. Right? We've been talking about Brighton now for a long, long time, and we've been asking, are they the ones that are going to break into the top six? And I look at what Bournemouth is doing, what Forest are doing right now, well, how the way Fulham are playing. You look at a number of teams right now who are kind of doing the Brighton, if you will. So it's possible. They've rotated the team as well. They have so many players injured as well. Evan Ferguson, Diego Gomez, who just came over from United States, not ready. Perhaps Karioglu, James Milner, Welbeck. I mean, how important he has been to this team as well. Vifer. So they're really deep in a way. Maybe not in these massive names that are super well known because they bought him. We know that's not how Brighton operate. But I think when they start getting everybody healthy, again, that competition for places is going to be tremendous. And as you can see, the managers of Brighton are never afraid to change things around to give young players a chance. So yeah, if they get healthy, I expect Brighton to move up the table.
Well, Janusz, we're just approaching the 10-minute mark. I know you've been up since 7 a.m. already this morning on a football frenzy. But final thoughts now then before we close, especially considering Liverpool play Manchester United tomorrow. That is the big game on Sunday. But honestly, I think all of us can say it's going to be very, very, very hard to find Manchester United getting anything out of this game with the way Liverpool are going. So should they get this win, they're looking at 8 points. They're not slowing down, at least in terms of Arsenal. Do you see them out of the title race now in January?
Well, it's a massive opportunity missed by Arsenal. There are no two ways about it. They need to be winning games. We talk about margins and the tempo that Liverpool are dictating. Arsenal doesn't have to look too far. I mean, just look at Liverpool, right? I mean, a couple of seasons when they were so close to Manchester City. Remember that season in 2019, 98, 97 points, and that's the problem. Not only do you have to match, but then you have to make sure, you have to hope that Liverpool drops points. So it's like, you have two jobs in there. It's not in your hands. So I don't want to. I always felt that Arsenal are going to be pushing Liverpool until the end. Liverpool stayed relatively healthy. The business end of the season is coming in right now for everybody, with League Cup, with FA Cup, with Champions League for both Arsenal and Liverpool. And I just think that these sort of draws, when we've talked about the 5 of them, right, for Arsenal, this is one of the games that I'm not saying that we're going to remember, but it's if Liverpool win tomorrow, I find it nearly impossible. But look, I like Arsenal. I still think if things go wrong for Liverpool at some stage, Arsenal are capable of making this a run. Because when it's all said and done, I have a feeling that towards the end of the season, we're going to be seeing different margins at the top of the table. I mean, look, just a couple of weeks ago it was 11 points on Manchester City. Remember Liverpool? Maybe it was 9 on Arsenal. And guess what? Today we were talking about Arsenal win, bringing them 3 points close, or 3 points outside of Liverpool, games in hand or not. So I do think that these things are going to happen. I do think that Liverpool is going to give Arsenal an opportunity or two. The big question is, can Arsenal take advantage of that? So far, they haven't.
That has been the big question that we've been asking, I think, since a couple of months now. Can Arsenal take advantage of the opportunities they have been given? Well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, Janusz. As we said, Arsenal will be in FA Cup action along with a lot of other players and clubs next week. For our American audience, that will be on ESPN, so look out for that. But for now, it's bye from Janusz and I.